thing, we're going to have Amiko South introduce the speaker. So Amika, could you come forward and introduce her? Thank you.
Hi, Angela Dougan was a proud stay-at-home mom. She is to her two beautiful young daughters and is now currently a senior field director for Americans for Prosperity, a nationwide organization that tries to mobilize citizens to advocate for policies that cut red tape and put the brakes on government overspending and to get the economy working again for Coloradans, not special interests. As a former Colorado Springs councilwoman, she has fought against government expansion by opposing water restrictions, increased regulations of regional building rules such as home sprinkler systems, tax increases, council pay raises, and skirting Tabor by instituting fees. She has also successfully fought to allow concealed carry permit employees the ability to carry inside their government buildings. She is often a lone voice against such issues of wasting taxpayer dollars, such as items on private property murals, personal birthday cakes, and unnecessary travel and non-core service spending. Let's give a welcome to Angela Dougan.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Amika. I so appreciate that. That was very sweet of you. Some of those things, when she was reading them off, I sort of forgot I did those things. It's been a few nights I slept. I want to say thank you, first of all, I have lived in Colorado since 1986, and this is the first time I've been on this part. I've never been to Durango, never even been to Pagosa Springs, been to Salida a few times, but that's about as far as I got. I don't know what I was thinking because it's absolutely beautiful country, and so thank you for getting me down here. I really, really do appreciate it. I get to spend a couple extra days here, and I'm just looking forward to that a lot. But I do have to say, as I was driving down I-60, got to Pagosa, got to Alamosa, was doing great, beautiful. I get into the little canyon, the colors are starting to change, so the next couple of weekends, you guys, if you're not tired of already seeing it, because you can see it every day, we don't get to in the springs. And I turned around and I looked at it, and all of a sudden, I saw this sign with a circle and a truck tip. Now, I'm from the South, and I've seen some sort of squiggly roads, but I've never seen a complete circle with truck tipped, and I thought, I don't know what the heck that means, so I'm going to slow down. And I'm just putsy when I'm not quite sure where I'm going. Goodness gracious, we go from up to the very top, 7 miles, 7 to 8% grade, and 9 miles with 3 runaway trucks and a circle with a tippy truck, and I literally went from one side of the mountain to the other side. I want to know that engineer's grade, because I guarantee you in college he was not an A student. I don't know who thought of that. So God bless all of you for actually having to do that. Such a beautiful time. But got to Pagosa, got out, walked, felt really good, went back, saw the beautiful view. So I've been very, very pleased. Thank you. How many of you, just by a show of hands, even heard or know about Americans for Prosperity? I got a lot of work to do, don't I? Whew. I need to come back here more often. Americans for Prosperity, we are a national company. We actually have a foundation side, and we also have what the side we're going to be working with is the more political side. And what I really, really love, even though she announced that I was an elected official at one point in Colorado Springs, I love working with Americans for Prosperity because we actually work with issues, not candidates. We have great candidates. I'd say I was a great candidate and a great person, but I can tell you, even at that point in time, there were times when I'd disappoint myself. So I always say, you know, issues never change. They never give, you never have to worry about them changing and not quite doing what you thought they were going to do. Issues are issues. They never fail you. So we started talking Americans for Prosperity as soon as Amendment 69 came on back in February and March. We looked at this and said $25 billion tax increase. This is just a no-go. This is not good for Colorado. Started doing a lot of research, looking into it. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to wiggle and move a lot, so I apologize. But when we started talking to people, and I'm the senior field director for the state of Colorado, but I also have a field team in El Paso County. And out of my little office that we have with my volunteers, we are regularly hitting 5,000 doors a month and about 25,000 phone calls to people. And we're talking to them. We don't believe in that robocall stuff. You want to talk to a person. So we talked to them about it. When I first started this, people would literally, and I'm going to look across this, and other than that corner right over there, I'm going to say most of you are at least my age or maybe a little bit older. Maybe right here we're not quite so there. And so when I tell people, have you heard about Amendment 69, they thought I was punking them. Because honestly, when I grew up, 69 was not a good number you want to have anything associated with. And seriously, you know what I'm talking about. It was not a good thing. And people be like, are you just making this up? No, sir, there really, really is going to be an Amendment 69. It really, really will be on your ballot. It's the only thing I can guarantee you. I can't tell you, at that point in time, what presidential candidate. I can't tell you what other kind of candidates are going to be up there Senate, but I can tell you Amendment 69 will be there. Another thing, I talk really fast. If I get talking too fast, just do this and I'll slow down. Okay, I'll slow down a little. I actually had an opponent one time in a debate who said, I think you should penalize her. And the judge goes, why? She, cut it off in her time. Well, she said way too much. He goes, she does put a lot of words in a minute. So anyway, that's what we really sort of looked at. So we started talking to people about Amendment 69, and when we started talking about it, literally nobody knew what we were talking about. And I get it sometimes, a lot of numbers, if you gave me numbers, I wouldn't know them either. So we started looking at it even a little bit deeper, because if you notice, Amendment 69 is the single-payer health care system. Please understand, it is not an insurance policy. It is a health care system, okay? And you may say, what's the difference? What does it matter? Why is it that a big deal here in Colorado? We're the only ones with it on the ballot. We're the only ones, we're going to try it out. They figured we voted for some other stuff. Let's see if they'll go for this too. So what we looked at it was a lot of people get very confused, and why I wanted to define healthcare system over a healthcare insurance policy. An insurance policy means I pay, and when I go to the hospital, I actually have the policy take care of it. There may be, I may go, let's say she's a doctor, I go to her, my insurance company says, okay, you can go to her, and she's going to give you this discount, and you're going to pay this much, and we'll pay this much, and we all make these deals. Healthcare system means there will no longer be any private insurance in the state of Colorado. It will be illegal. Illegal to have a health care insurance policy. I can't go to her for my doctor or my insurance plan. I can't go to her. It is an actual system, and that is the only place you're going to get the health care from, okay? So you have to understand, a lot of people will tell me, well, I already have insurance. What is it really going to matter to me? It's because it's a system. It will be illegal. It will still be the same elected group that will actually make the decisions for you on your health care. What doctors can come in, what procedures can be done. It is a health care system, not an insurance policy plan. So the reason why we say at Americans for Prosperity it is a prescription for disaster, it's a little crooked, I apologize. It's quite a few reasons. Just what I touched on. It's going to push out private health care, all private health care. It's actually going to take over if you have workman's comp. It will take it'll take over any kind of insurance. People in the military, retired. Do I have any retired military here? A lot of them will say, well, it doesn't matter to me. I've got retired military. Okay, they can still go through the federal group to get it, to get their insurance as they do. But I always say, you got it worse. If you live in the state of Colorado and you have any kind of actual retirement money coming into you, it's going to be taxed. And then you're not even going to use it because you got your other. And as we all know, usually when things get bigger and bigger, it tends to start hitting everybody. It passes a 10% new payroll tax. New $25 billion payroll tax. People will pay about 3.3. The employers will pay the other 6%. Do the math. I'm not the best math. I always say I never got hired for math. They actually do that. So any business that is in the state of Colorado will have this additional 6% to pay. I also say very often, AFP, I'll sort of touch on what we do. We really, really want to help people be able, as I say, I have the best job in the world. I want to make sure everybody can achieve the American dream. As she said, I was a happy stay-at-home mom, and they went to college, and I thought, I want to ensure that the American dream is for my children. As I believed when I ran around, I could be anything I wanted to be, because I lived in America, the best place in the world, just had to work hard, do the right thing, and really try, and maybe try again, maybe fail, try again, but I could do that in America. I didn't have so many government regulations or so many taxes that I just didn't even have a chance to pay for anything. So that's what Americans for Prosperity does. We really, really work on issues that are going to hit your pocketbook with more regulations from the government. So I will say very honestly, Governor Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett don't usually agree with AFP. We are usually on the opposite side on issues. This thing is so bad that Senator Bennett, let's say Gary Hickenlooper, I don't know where I got that one, Governor Hickenlooper, and AFP are all saying this is bad for Colorado. Governor Hickenlooper has made public statements about the fact that he's had businesses come to him and say, pull it. You know, this was the beginning. Pull it. We don't want that on the ballot. He didn't understand in Colorado how easy it is for people to actually go out and petition something on the ballot. And that once it's petitioned on by people, legislator can't pull it, not even the governor. This is so bad that when they tried to get it through, Senator Aguilar tried to get support for it. She couldn't even get her own party to support it, to actually put it through and get it on that. They had to actually go through a personal petitioning process. So 10%, very expensive. Businesses are like, I'm not bringing my headquarters there if this is what you're doing. I mean, businesses don't want to pay extra money in that area. Sorry, I got a little thing here, keeps popping up. It forces everyone into government-run health care. Now, I'm going to be very honest, because I can't lie. I don't have the memory to lie anymore. It just sort of fades away. But I'm not from this area. As I told you, I've never even really been here. But in the state of Colorado, we have state DMVs and we have county DMVs. Now, we're very blessed in El Paso County to have one of the great county clerks, Chuck Brewerman, if any of you happen to know him, fabulous guy. He runs our county DMV very well. Very impressed. State DMV, anyone who's over the age of 65, I believe, and under the age of 21 has to go there. They can't go to the county. And you might as well pack a lunch and probably a dinner too. So would you prefer to have the state DMV or the post office? Because we know how efficiently they run things. Have many of you ever had, and I hope no one's here from the post office because you do a great service, but have you ever lost a package with the post service? Did you have a receipt for that? For my mom's brownies? No. You know, did you? But I insured it for that. You took the money. No. Got to have a receipt from 1962, I guess, before I was born. So anyway, you got to look at it, and you look at government. Can anyone here? I'm going to be very fair. Raise your hand. Can anyone tell me something that they know? There might be a few instances where governments jumped in and made it better for the people. Go for it.
I just want to say that one of your most ardent supporters, best people in this town, is the U.S. Post Office employee.
Okay.
Sitting right over there.
Thank you. I did say thank you for what you're doing, but overall, I bet he could tell us stories, couldn't you? I bet he could tell us some stories. Actually, my sister-in-law actually works for the Postal Service, too. So there are very good people, and they do a good job, but is government always doing a better job at what that we could do? Can anyone think of an area? They run an army, and they should do that, shouldn't they? I don't want to run it. They do it. I personally believe government does have certain roles. I think we should actually, the government should build our roads. There is a place for government, but is it in your health care? That's the big question. So, and my biggest problem, and maybe it's just because, I don't know, because I'm Angela, but I really hate it when people tell me I have to do something. If I come upon the idea and say this is the best process for me, then I'll do it, but let me pay for it myself. when you tell me I have to do something, when I tell all of you gentlemen you have to be under this program, well, it may or may not be the best program. My girlfriend, actually, she works with me at AFP. She's so funny. Her husband, his business got bought out by another company, and they weren't offering insurance about the time of Obamacare came in. I'll get to you real quickly, I promise. You have something? Oh, yeah. And so anyway, she has 2 boys, and she will let me tell the story. She's give me permission, and she's had a hysterectomy. So when they didn't have insurance, they went to the Obamacare line to figure out how they get insurance, because she had 2 teenage boys, which teenage anything tends to go to the hospital at least once a year just for laughs and giggles. So she's like, why am I having to pay for birth control and pregnancy? I don't think my family's going to be using that, because you have to. And that was her story. It was 3 times the cost. Once her husband's company bought him out and got the insurance, and then about a year later they all switched around and everything worked. She could go out on her own market and do it. So again, government, 3 times expensive, paying for things she didn't really need care, or she really wasn't sure. She really was pretty sure her boys weren't going to get pregnant. She was really confident on that point. So, we got to look at that kind of stuff. Did you have a question you want to go now? You can go now if you want to.
How does the state of Colorado figure they can preempt the federal government?
Didn't we do that with marijuana?
No, I'm saying, what I'm saying, like a lot of people in the room have Medicare, I pay for that. See, also have a supplemental I pay for. Does this mean I got to pay this stuff on top of that?
Yes.
Who says so? I mean, what I'm saying is, I thought the federal government was running that.
Medicare.
The state of Colorado will tell people in Washington that Medicare doesn't apply here anymore.
I want to go. Actually, Medicare. Yeah. Medicare is not under this umbrella at this point in time. That is the only insurance that is not under this ColoradoCares. But I'm going to go one more step further. But you still have to pay for it, because you're retired. Unless you're not getting any money or you're not working, then you don't have to pay for it. But if you're retired, I've had people say, you know what, I retired from Arizona. The company's not even in Colorado. It won't matter. Yeah, it will. If it comes into Colorado, it will be taxed at 10%. And they're like, oh. But I want to add on to you, because you had a good point. Who's going to tell you this? In ColoradoCares, I actually downloaded all the information, printed it in color, because I wanted to see all the pretty graphs, and I want to do one for each of my field directors. So I did 10. Don't print in color unless you really know how many pages are there, because there was a lot of pages. But I actually read all the pages. And I think one of the things that really, really upset me was the fact of they will have an elected board. A 21 elected board. Yeah, okay, we'll get 21 more people to run this. Okay. Oh, but they get to set their own districts. They get to set their own pay. And you can't recall them. And the legislature has nothing over them. That's when I started sort of figuring out where, you know, my mama always told me, if you can't figure something out, follow the emotion or follow the money. Started following the money. Correct. You actually don't even have, I'm sorry, U.S. Colorado citizen. You just have to have the intent to move to Colorado. I'm not quite sure how. Well, think about people. How many of you are actually, well, I don't know if I want to say snowbirds out here, because I know you guys get a lot of snow out here. But how many of you maybe, I know a lot of people who, you know, they live in one part here and then they are snowbirds and they go up to Arizona. Well, because it's a healthcare system that you're paying into and not a health insurance policy, like if I get hurt today, my little United Healthcare would probably say, okay, as long as you did something reasonable, then, you know, oh, I hurt my toe and I need to get a nose job too, and maybe a tummy tuck, you know, they'll actually say, okay, go for it. You can go to the local hospital, which I'll have to ask you guys where it is, and, you know, go in there and do it. This is a healthcare system. So if you're in Arizona and you get hurt, you go to the hospital. That's what you should do. I'm not telling anybody not to go to the hospital. You should go to the hospital, get medical care when you need medical care. I know my insurance policy is going to pay for it. Again, unless I tried to pull that tummy tuck thing, which I told my doctor, one more surgery on my stomach, I get one free. But if you don't try to pull something like that, I feel very sure that my insurance will cover it. You have this 21 elected board decides. They get to decide whether, yeah, you really should have gone to the hospital. Maybe you didn't need to go to the hospital. And then they get to tell you how much you have to pay. Okay, so that's the very, very scary part. Again, that's that 21 elected board that sets their own salaries, sets their own districts, can't be recalled, and legislation can't. You know, when you say, why isn't my legislator doing something about that? They can't. For once, there'll be one time they can say they can't, and they'll be actually telling the total truth there. So let's go to the cost, $25 billion. That is actually doubling the current state budget. The current state budget. That is the amount that we are actually increasing it. And I'm going to tell you these numbers are very conservative, and this is just for the first year. Okay? Because we all know when we talked about how government is so good at running things that maybe private industry should run, they're really, really good at predicting how much it's going to cost. I mean, really good at missing that number and needing to double it. That's usually what my experience it is. And if I'm saying something, please correct me, because I love to get examples once in a while. Like I said, there are reasons why government should do certain things. Okay, let's go and pop them all up there for me. Some of the things they have with the risks, and again, I go a little bit off of this because this was when we first started. It actually talked about the long lines and waits for procedures. Anybody who's had someone who may be in Canada or London, yes, they all have free health care insurance, but, or even in the military. I had a friend who actually tore her Achilles or her something else, and either her leg needed to be straight or bent, but because she was with, her husband was in the military, and I thought this was really sad. The Air Force Academy couldn't get her in quick enough, so it was like 6 weeks, and then they just figured, well, we hope we picked the right one when she was skiing. She still has problems with her knee. But anyway, long waits and lines for procedures, because the fact of the matter is, would you want to be a doctor, nursing students? How much would you want to go in, rack up a lot of student loans to become a doctor, to have a 21 board tell you what you can charge, what you can do, and you don't even know if they're actually going to be paid for when you have to help somebody? Not many people, we're already struggling in Colorado with doctors. I know if I were a doctor, I sure wouldn't be doing it in Colorado. So that's where we talk about the long lines and the procedures. Because we also have procedures maybe have to be done that this board has to say whether they can do it or not, unless it's a life-saving measure. So you want to look at that. Lower quality health care. Basically, if everyone's trying to funnel into the same person, the same place, the same thing, doesn't tend to usually make a really good quality choice for you. Higher health care cost. That's just been proven. $70 million was for the Colorado Health Exchange that we did, the part of the Obamacare that, you know, you could keep your doctor and all that kind of stuff if you liked it. When we actually looked at it, $70 billion, they had over 80,000 people who lost their insurance, and only 15,000 of them got it back. And it got it back, like my friend Jill, at a lot lower. She did not have the ability to go and do the things she needed to do. Matter of fact, this is a true story on that same Obamacare thing. Her son was 14. They'd gone to Delta Dental forever since he was born. But when they changed the insurance, even though it was Delta Dental, he happened to be at 14 and his wisdom teeth grew in. He's a little freak boy, I don't know. And you know what Delta Dental told him? You've only paid in 2 months, because he went to the dentist. She could prove it wasn't like she just ignored it. They went to the dentist. The dentist says, you need to get the wisdom teeth out. They grew in. I don't know what the heck's going on with this boy. And he turned around and he said, oh, you've only been paying us for 2 months? You don't get him out until he's 16 at least. You need to pay for 2 more years. Luckily, her husband got the insurance for the company, and she actually got to get her son's wisdom teeth taken out when the doctor said he needed to have them taken out. Colorado suffering. I always sort of laugh at Rudy for doing this, because this is sort of how I feel today with the smoke. But really and truly, we're going to suffer in more ways than just medical. And one of the things, My daughter had a very odd asthma thing. We didn't know for years. Every year, she was about 18 months, she'd end up in the hospital, couldn't breathe, was allergic to Decadron, couldn't take the typical albuterol stuff. It was really, really tough. And finally, when she was 16, I just said, I've had it. And we went to National Jewish, and we did a ton of tests to figure out what was wrong. We found out she had a really rare condition of asthma, but it was in her lower lungs instead of her upper lungs. So everything they tried to give her didn't work, or she was allergic to. So as a mom with a 16-year-old, she was literally doing this. The first time they went in National Jewish and they took her breath, they said, well, she's got good breathing. And I said, oh, because I'm thinking she didn't, because she'd whoop. I mean, she'd almost, I thought maybe she had like really bad, that whooping cough. And, you know, because she'd whoop. And I said, well, gosh, she's got great breathing, thank you. He goes, for an 80-year-old, she was 16. They now have her up to, actually she's doing much, much better. It's taken years, and amazingly, once we got that figured out, her health increased a lot. Her medical cost went down because we were able to figure out what was going on with her. So Colorado's suffering. Having as a mom, I just think, gosh, for 15 years, if we had figured that out beforehand, she wouldn't have been in the hospital every year and so sick all the time. This is the one they talk about, unlimited tax increases. Now, they're very good about saying, you will get to vote on the tax increases if we don't have enough money to cover this. Great. Give me more money or you don't have any health system in the state of Colorado. Sort of like our mayor recently just said, oh, I can't pay for roads, so you need to give me more money. Conservative El Paso County now has the highest sales tax of anyone up and down the Front Range because he held hostage our roads, and they were bad. I'm not going to lie, they were bad. But I sort of think maybe he should have spent his money on roads, which government should, and not some of the other stuff he likes to do. So anyway, you look at it that way, yeah, you'll get to vote on it, but when you're all into this system, who's not going to say yes? Because they may go without insurance and it all completely collapse under them, excuse me. Did I just hit an extra? Most of you may know the Independence Institute. It's out of Denver. It's a conservative think tank. And again, they did this at the beginning, and they're actually finding more and more. But according to them, ColoradoCare will control medical prices and medical spending. So again, doctors and nurses, you don't get what it's worth. In your opinion, you get what this board decides because they're going to control it. Colorado is not a health insurance, as I already went over that again. They will assess unlimited income taxes. Yes, you get to vote on them, but it's sort of like, give me more money or you have no health insurance in the state of Colorado. ColoradoCare will administer all state and federal health programs except Medicare. That is including workman's comp and all those different kinds of insurance that you actually have. ColoradoCare will deposit all personal health care data into databases for publicly available research. Now, younger generations have really not a lot of problems with the Big Brother kind of theory. You know, they go to school, they have cameras on them. They have GPS trackers walking in their back pocket all the time. You know, anything they go, they're sort of used to it. I'm not probably as concerned as some people. I don't like it, but it doesn't scare me as it does many people, and I can understand why it does scare them. But the fact of the matter to have all of my health information out there, no. And right now, I'm a pretty healthy person. I don't want to know what they're going to have next time they have it. But people could research it, and that does scare me because you could say, oh, you know what? I'm not going to hire her because I know what she has. You know, people in their basements, you know, all kinds of stuff could be researched. You know, not only jobs, not only, oh, I don't want to loan and get her a car for 5 years because I don't think she's going to be here. You know, there could be a whole lot of there going on to it. I just don't think that's right. Again, the dollars, and I always sort of laugh because AFP is nothing but dramatic at times. If you notice, we didn't put $1 bills there, we put $100 bills there because it's just starting at $25 billion. $25 billion, which they know will increase and continue to increase. We just spent $70 million on the other. I think this is very scary because when you see this number, and again, I think it's why we're so dramatic with the $100 bills, 14.3 highest state income tax. Who do you think that's higher than? California, New York. Those states that you hear have the highest amount of taxes, Colorado will beat them. Colorado, yeah, that's not the one that I wanted to cheer for. Woohoo, we're the highest taxed. I'll take something else being first. Single-payer health care will take Colorado further down the destructive path of a government-run health care. If you think they are just going, oh, we love Colorado and we want Colorado to have this wonderful health care system and we only care about them, well, come out and meet me at my car because I got some great dust I can serve you. Or a bridge. I can get you a new bridge without that little hairpin thing. That's what I'll sell you guys. A new bridge. Absolutely. There's no way that this is only going to be a one-time only state. They're trying us for a reason. They want it bigger and better. Again, going back to what my mama always said, follow the money, follow the emotion. This is money. The people that start it here will continue to keep going. And they'll be the ones making sure they are in charge of it. So, now I've sort of depressed you guys, told you how bad it is. And one of the things I really, really hate, and sometimes you even have to fight AFP on this, is I hate when you go doom and gloom and boo. See ya. It's all yours now. Have fun. I really believe if you're going to say no to something, even if I'm right in the middle of the camera, aren't I? When you really are going to say no to something, and you're going to say no to taxes, you're going to say no to different things, then give us a solution. Give us something that you think will make it better, because just saying no at this day and age just doesn't work, and it's not real prosperous on that. So here are the answers. Choice, freedom, flexibility, and innovations in the healthcare insurance plan. Doesn't that sound great? It sounds just like a mission statement. Don't you always love people's mission statements? It does sound like that. But really it is true. Give people the choice. Give people like myself who had gone to a doctor for my daughter for years. Good doctor, not a bad doctor. But I needed to go to National Jewish to get some more answers. Freedom. Freedom to do is just as I told my daughter that day. She knew she was doing a lot of tests. She was like, Mama, how much is this going to cost? And I said, I don't care if I give every last dime of my money and sell everything I have. I'm going to make you healthy. That is my promise as a mom. I don't care. Just as my father, when he was dying, the last thing I could do for him was to make sure that he was comforted and taken care of, and the way he wanted, not the way that I maybe wanted, his freedom. Flexibility. Flexibility and the innovation. Let's make it something that maybe what works for you doesn't work for me. Maybe my husband is an exact example of this. He goes to the doctor, wherever he wants to go, and he's one of those, give me a pill and make it better. And it does. Makes me so mad. You need this, we'll fix this. He's always exactly textbook. Me, I tell my doctor I don't want to have any surgeries unless it's going to kill me if I don't have it. And if you didn't have to put me out, I'd be okay. And he's like, well, if you wouldn't scream during the surgery, I'd be okay with it too. But let's have the flexibility to make sure that we have it. Get innovation. Let's actually have healthcare systems in an insurance market. So again, a lot of words, sound real pretty, break them down, but what does it really mean and what do I really do? Positive alternatives. A better path forward on the healthcare. And this one's yellow, and I apologize because it's very difficult to read. And if you can't tell, one of my biggest pet peeves is when people do a PowerPoint and they read straight off of it. So if you have more questions, let me know. But I'll read this one. Buying across state lines. A lot of us hear this called portability. If you remember before the whole Obamacare, when Hillary Care was coming, and when she was trying to do that, what was the year she was trying to do that? I'll take your word for it. I like that. This is the answer guy. Anything I can't answer, he'll do it. Actually, when they were trying to do that, we were actually hearing a lot about portability or making insurance across state lines. Why can't I, if I love my insurance plan in Arkansas and it covers my needs and gives the flexibility of what I want, Why can't I buy from Arkansas? If I want to do Colorado, why can't I buy Colorado? Heck, if I want to go to Hawaii and buy insurance from Hawaii. You know, we have this little thing called the internet. It's not like I have to even travel there anymore, darn it. But, you know, we can actually get on and find out who has the best policy, the best plan for us. My kids are now 19 and 22. They're going to be getting off my insurance plan. So what I have today is probably not what I'm going to need in the next few years. Why can't I go and find out through states and let them do this little thing called competition? Competition. Competition always works. Works with siblings, works with insurance companies. Have some competition. Why can't we go forward and look at that? Eliminating excessive mandates and regulations. How many are in here in the medical field? I mean, I know I heard have some of this. How many times do you have to fill out paperwork or do this or do that because... And even before Obama, I'm going to actually defend him here. Even before Obama, it was still pretty bad. I actually had some doctors that left businesses or went into a mega kind of thing because they just couldn't handle all the insurance paperwork and all the regulations and asking this and that. So actually, when you look at that, eliminating excessive mandates and regulations, you know, talk to people. Let's see what's going to work. Block granting Medicaid. Does anyone know what that might mean? What it means is right now we have the federal government gives the money out to the doctors individually. They give it out to what they think is going to be paid out. Why don't they do this thing I really generally like, local control, give us the pot of money and let Colorado figure out how they need to spend it and what they need to spend it on, instead of having a federal government tell us up in Washington. I even sort of laugh because our headquarters is in Arlington, Virginia, and sometimes they will say things like, why did you have to drive 17 miles and you say you were still in your district, Angela? Because El Paso County is the largest geographic county. You know, and my best one, because we always have all these little technology things, and you know, when we go and knock doors, we go through on iPads and stuff. Why do you have it on paper? Because I was in Black Forest. Well, what's Black Forest? It's black in a forest when it's dark. It's a forest. You know, even with the fire, it's still a forest in most of it. And so I always sort of laugh because sometimes, you know, AFP can also be, you know, when you're sitting in an area that you can go to another state in 17 miles, it makes them hard to understand why you're still in your same. I can go 24 miles in mine to go from hither to yon, as I say. Supply side reforms. Yeah, I think I have gone from almost state to state to, you know, I actually, Friday was in Fort Collins. I sort of thought, well, gee, I didn't plan that one very well. Go all the way to Fort Collins and then all the way back to the Springs and all the way over, but I still love it. I love driving it. Supply side reforms. You know, let people who are doing the supplying figure out the best way to do it. That's what it really should say. I always say they prettify me. And ending the scope of practice. I sort of laughed on scope of practice. What are you talking about? But exactly the example is, you know, why is it a pediatrician can only work with an 18-year-old? When my youngest was not 8, you know, she was 18. She'd had a lot of stomach issues, and we couldn't figure out what was going on with her. So we went to, the doctor I wanted to go to was, what do you call the stomach doctor? GI doctor. And was a really, really good one. But he couldn't see her because she wasn't 18 yet. It's the scope. It's pediatrics. Now, granted, I understand having a specialty. Trust me. I want to have an OBGYN delivering my baby and not Nick next door. You know, there are reasons to have specialty. But she was right on that teetering point. So actually, when she ended up having to have surgery, we actually had to have 2 doctors in there because the pediatric GI was there, but the surgeon was the actual one that I wanted to go to in the first place. So it gets a little crazy. But if doctors could talk more, how many of you been to the hospital lately and with a child? As a patient? Okay. One of the things I really found out that I was really surprised at when my daughter did go in for the surgery, that her regular pediatrician, once she was admitted into the hospital, no longer had any control. It was now the surgeons there. I was like, but he's known her since she was born. He might know some. Oh, doesn't matter. Couldn't even come and see. I mean, he did come and see her, but he couldn't do anything. And I think that's a little crazy too. Empower telemedicine. Now, this may be something that I sort of think sort of like online school. I'm a huge proponent, and one of the reasons I really did get with AFP of I believe in choice for schools. I believe whether it's online, whether it's private school, whether it's public school, whether it's charter school, whatever it is that makes your child be able to be successful is your right to do it. And I really, really do that. So empowering, and I always say online school would be a nightmare for me because I'm just way too ADD. But telemedicine. I can guarantee you, when my kids and myself, and I've even gotten to it, I'll go in and look, oh, that's a weird looking rash. I go look at it on the internet. Now, I'm not saying you should actually go diagnose yourself, but if you had telemedicine, if you had someone there who could say, snapshot that picture of that rash for me and send it to me, and I'll see if you're right on that, you know. Sometimes, you know, I can always go straight to the, oh my gosh, I got this, it must be cancer. But we could do a lot of this. And it may not be that everybody uses every single thing, but if we did it each. So direct primary care, basically that means you actually have people working with you on the primary care. Your primary care can actually do more things than they do right now. And just sort of keep track of you like they used to do in the hospital. Free market supply side reforms, one focused not on, and this is my favorite thing, okay? You're going to hear the other side, the people that are saying, absolutely, you've got to vote for 69, you need to pay these taxes, because they say something that I absolutely agree with, sort of. Because they look at you and they go, everybody deserves to have insurance. Everybody. Now they're even saying it's a right to have insurance. Now, I believe there are certain rights that were put in our Constitution that are absolutely what we should have. I don't think they put in insurance, especially if you really look back at the history of insurance. Insurance is not supposed to actually take care of every single thing. It was actually for when you had the hospital, the big surgeries, those kinds of things, you know, the catastrophic type of insurance. That's really what it was used for. But what I say is, yes, everybody should have the ability to have health care. To be able to look at your child and say, I will make sure you get taken care of. To look at your elderly parent and say, I will make sure you're taken care of. When you have something wrong with yourself and you can say, I'm going to figure it out and get the best health care, which we do have in this country. But does it mean to you for everybody to have insurance, as ColoradoCare will tell you, that they all have an insurance card? Because I can give everybody an insurance card, but it doesn't allow them to have health care. Health care is being able to go to the doctor and find out and be able to afford it. And not to have to say, we're not going to, you know, there are families that would have to make a choice of going to the doctor versus taking care of some of their bills. I would much prefer to have a health care system, which is one of the best in this country, by putting in some of these reforms so that everybody could afford it. My husband is a retired police officer. He just retired this year, 34 years with the CSPD. And when I was young and married to him, I'd be like, well, how did that happen? We have a dispute, a dispute. And she had a restraining order against him. He shouldn't have been there. And my husband would look at me and go, you know that restraining order is only a piece of paper. That's exactly like the insurance company. It's only a piece of paper if it can't be used for anything. The restraining order is great to have it on file, but it's not going to stop a bullet. But I'd say, but he had a restraining order. It's a piece of paper, Angela. So that's what I'm talking about on this slide, is that we really need to be improving people's health care outcomes. Just like my daughter, from the age of 18 months to 16, every year she was in the hospital for at least 5 days. Never knew what was going on, couldn't breathe. I always say, if I could get my money back for all the times you were wrong, then maybe you'd be right more often because it's going to cost you something. But honestly, it wasn't that they were doing anything wrong. It was she had something odd and something very different. So anyway, we have a website that is amendment. I'm not going to say the www because anyone who has young kids here, they all laugh whenever I put the www dot in there because it's just how I was taught to do it. And they always say, Mom, that just shows your age. But amendment69co.com. And I guarantee you we probably have more than 12,000 because I know I've had this on my computer for a while. It actually has a lot of the exact information I went over. It also has a lot of the details. And also, it really makes them mad when this number keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The good news, the last time I heard some polling on it, it is actually being defeated. But I always say it needs to be defeated by at least 80%. If it's only defeated by 60, 62%, they're going to come back and go, huh, we've only got 10% of the people now to convince. We've already got the other 48%. Get 58%, we're good. We got 10%. So we have to defeat this to make sure it does not come to Colorado. Cost us $25 billion the first year. And also, I think we need to use it as leverage to get our legislators to say, hey, let's talk about portability. Let's talk about block grant. If you guys have ideas that you think would make it better, let's go for it. Let's get that conversation going. Let's find out. Because I do agree, it is scary when you have a child and you don't know what's going on. And like I told my daughter, I would have sold my house and lived in a tent to make sure she was healthy. I think everybody has that feeling at themselves. So let's figure out how we can, because we do have some of the greatest health care. So that's it for me. Questions. I love to hear questions. You guys have been so quiet. Wait, first I'm going to get a drink of water. Oh, that'd be great.
Everybody can hear the person.
Did I slow down enough? I think you tell me. No? Could you understand?
Your foundation, you said out of Virginia?
No, actually we have a foundation and we have our political side. This is more of our political side, but our headquarters are in Arlington, Virginia.
Who contributes? Yeah, who contributes to your foundation? If we were to want to go and see who are your contributors, who would they be?
You know, actually AFP, over 35 states, we have contributors locally in each state, as well as many, many, many other people contributing nationally. We are a C3, so we are not showing exactly who has our actual donations there, but Charles and David Koch have always been very, very upfront of being strong donors, and I'm part of our board. A lot of people we've seen in the past have been targeted, and they don't want to be targeted. So yes, they do file under a C3, and we do follow those correct laws.
What kind of people are supporting this movement?
Oh.
Just check this.
You know, actually the Democrats, they were, like I said before, a lot of the Democrats, Senator Aguilera is the one who wrote the legislation, but she didn't actually get enough votes. Even her own people, they had the majority of Democrats didn't. And as I said, Senator Bennett, Hickenlooper, there's quite a few that are saying no to it. But when you look at, just as he asked the question on the donors, when you look at the donors, because it's a little bit different when you're not a nonprofit C3 corporation, you do see, and I haven't looked at it probably in about 3 months, but it was primarily 5 people wanting to run, putting in money, and it was out-of-state money. It was people I had no idea of their names. But it seems to be about 5 people who want to do this. Again, as I said, my mother always told me, follow the money. If they can get these positions, set their own roads, set their own salaries, and then they can take it to other states, they're pretty well set for life. So now there are a few more people. I mean, you do see more people who do under $20 donations, and that's great. Some people really think it's a great thing, and I believe in America and that we do what we need to do. But I think educating you, and I'll go back to $25 billion.
Okay, there's a question back here. Nope, she got it.
Oh, yeah.
There's one over here.
I have Medicare, but I also have a supplementary, AARP, United Healthcare. What is going to happen with all that?
What I understand, at least in the first year, because this is very experimental. Did everyone hear that question okay? Okay. What would happen to Medicare and my supplementary insurance? Pretty quickly. Was that pretty much it? Medicare is not going to be under this. Now, you have to also stand, when this passes, we as the state of Colorado also have to ask for an exemption from Obamacare. So Medicare won't be originally touched it, but your supplemental care will go away. It will go through. I didn't know you had to pay for it year before or behind. They get you no matter which, coming and going. They get you one way or the other, don't they? So yeah, your secondary would not be. It would be under this. You'd have to do it under this.
So it seems like if people don't want this coverage, they'll be leaving the state. If businesses can't afford to pay their 6% for their employees, businesses will be run out of town.
I agree with you.
So
And let's take it the other flip side. People who have a lot of medical issues and are not working can have the intent to move to the state of Colorado, and you and I are paying for them.
right.
So what kind of culture are we doing to our state?
Do you remember the name of the guy that's a proponent of this? He was a reporter. He goes by initials.
Oh. I thought you were going to ask for Owens.
No, it was like Klein or Stein or...
It was a guy they brought out, basically it was a guy who they were very excited about having endorsed, that this was a great thing for Colorado, but he's someone who believes in single payer completely.
Yeah, this guy was a reporter for the Washington Post and a lot of other places. He spent his entire life as an overseas reporter in socialist countries. He said, you were asked earlier about, suppose you're out of state. And his comment was, as an example, if you break your leg out of state, ColoradoCare would pay for the stabilization of the break. You got to get back to Colorado for all of the technical treatment that you might need. All they would
Triage him.
All they would maybe, and he said maybe, pay for was the stabilization. So if you're in a car wreck, okay, they put you on the gurney and give you 2 Band-Aids and fly you back to Colorado, I guess. I don't know how that's going to work.
Well, and I think the bigger question is, and the reason why, and if you read, and you can find it online, ColoradoCare's, don't print it in color, read it. But when you read it, it says a lot of things like maybe. And they even use the example of, well, you could be on there and you can get taken care of and we'll pay for it. There's no guarantee of that. And that's what I say. You guarantee me that when I walk into that hospital that I'm going to walk out and pay. What I know, how many of you guys sort of know if you go in and do a procedure? I've even gotten to be, when I had to have an ultrasound, I called 3 different places to see what kind of price. It was simple. Why not be competitive? I went to the place. I mean, they were all great, reputable places. I had it. But I know sort of what I'm going to be paying, or at least have a good idea if everything goes normal. If I'm in another state, I don't have that guarantee walking in there with ColoradoCare. And again, what doctors and nurses, who I think are some of the most backbone, I mean, trust me, when I'm sick, when you're sick, when your kids are sick, when your parents are sick, the person I have a friend who's a nurse now. I say, you know, you have this emergency and you hear the doctor and nurse talking, and I'm a sort of, I think I'm a sort of intelligent person. I don't have any idea what they're saying, but I'm agreeing with them. Yeah, let's do it. Because I trust them, because I believe that they're the best doctors, they're the best choice. I hopefully have done my background research to make sure, because about half of what they're saying is going right over my head. I remember when they told me my mother had leukemia, I finally understood what it meant to be hit in the stomach by something. Because I'd always say, it felt like the wind was knocked out of me. But nothing touched you. It literally felt like the wind was knocked out of me. I have no idea what that doctor even looked like. To this day, he could walk up to me, or what he said to me, because your brain just doesn't work that way. And at that point in time, you've got to trust the person that's got the medical care to do what they can do. You don't need to be worrying about, well, now I also have it taken care of, or am I going to go broke on this? Anyone else?
Sorry, I have one more question. Maybe. I'm on Social Security. If I don't take that, or do I have a choice?
You do not have a choice.
So I'm going to be taxed regardless. Ouch.
Any income coming into Colorado will be taxed 10%. From Medicare, yes. Medicare is not. I'm sorry, Medicare does not. Yeah. But if you have another retirement and you hit that threshold, yes, you would be.
I'm a disabled veteran, and this reminds me sort of like the VA. If you like, really, it's a bad outfit, you know, what you're proposing here. And the care will suffer because you have no choice.
I think
You're not going to have any choice of who does the job or whatever. And by the way, if you go to Durango, you want to see the Colorado government in action, just take a look at the Bridge to Nowhere.
Is that in Durango?
You know, and that, if you want to see what they do with $80 million.
You know, when I were talking about a lot of the things that I think we can actually just turn this off. Well, again, I think when it's your health care, it's your choice, just like I think with schools. That's my personal opinion. What I'd like to see you do, if you believe, like Hickenlooper, Senator Bennett, and myself, think, even though Hickenlooper and Bennett both supported Obamacare, they did not support this because they know how detrimental it will be to Colorado. If it's something that you think to do, I do have some information. These are things that we're actually going, and I think there has been over, I should have gotten this number before I left, over probably, I know we've had at least a lot. I know my team does over 1,000 and most, so about 7,000, 8,000 of these go out a week. Through Colorado, we've been walking our teams in the areas. We have 8 field directors, and that's why we wanted to come down here. Feel free to take some of this information, hand it to your friends. They do have the website on here. It does talk about it, because I believe right now we're at, according to what I have been told, I am not going to guarantee these numbers. I'm not going to say what poll, but what we have been told is that this is going down by about 70%, which is wonderful. But we got to get that 80%. So if each of you tonight went out and talked to 10 people and said, this is what I'm voting against and this is why I'm voting, and I have more on the table too, so you can take more too, but this is why I'm voting against it, and talk to your families and friends and make sure they understand. A lot of people don't really, beginning didn't know what it was. And now people are starting to understand how detrimental. This is actually something that's very bipartisan, that's actually going across the board. I'll do it here.
Well,
I'm sorry, and I apologize. I keep sniffing. The smoke killed me today, driving through that.
my husband and I are both retired. We're from California. We have insurance from California. And my husband and I went round for round today saying, I said, I don't think we get the insurance if we're in Colorado. And he said, I can't believe we lose our insurance, our good insurance from California.
What it would be is if you had your insurance in California and you went to any of the other states except for Colorado, it would be just as it always is. But in the state of Colorado, it would be illegal to have.
And we'd be taxed. Well, we wouldn't even have anything, any insurance to show for it.
No, it's a health care system.
We aren't even,
Tell your husband you were right. Tell your husband you were right. I always love it when you can tell them I was right. I'm sorry, go on.
no, that was, I'm just saying that we wouldn't be penalized because we wouldn't have anything to be penalized for.
Right. Well, the point is that you'd have your insurance in California, but like, for example, people have supplemental care. And they can say, like my aunt has, she's over 65. They have Medicare, but they also have Blue Cross and Blue Shield. So when my uncle wanted a different kind of medicine for a thing that he had, they were able to use that. Plus they paid a lot too because they went around Medicare kind of thing. So when you look at it that way, it was the same example of the snowbird. You live here in Colorado, you pay the 10% tax, or the 3.33, and then your boss pays the other part. When you actually do that and you go to Arizona and live 6 months, Arizona's not going to accept ColoradoCare. And, well, they could. Let's be honest, they could. But then the ColoradoCare 21 board elected has to say, yeah, we think you needed that. And I don't want to put my health care to that. Just like I told my daughter, I don't care if I pay every penny. Don't make it illegal. If I want to pay every penny to take care of something, I should be able to do that. Don't tell me because I live in the state of Colorado it is illegal for me to go get the care I need for my child, no matter where I think it is. Gentlemen? You guys are good. Huh?
And right now, seeing as I'm at 60 plus years of age, my supplemental insurance, I can't afford it. I'm on Medicare Part A, Part B, and even with the 20% copay, I went for surgery here 2 years ago. I told the hospital over $5,000. You know, I mean, but they're nice. They're working with me.
They usually do. Matter of fact, I'll tell you there's hope. My daughter, who I was telling you about the story that had the gallbladder surgery, and we had insurance, and we had good insurance. I finally paid off the bill. This month, I wrote it the final $225 and paid it off. But the hospital was able to work with me on that, and that's exactly it. A lot of times they'll give you a 25, 100, whatever you can pay. So hopefully they do. So God bless you.
And right now, with the way you're sounding right now, with me being a Social Security, I was supposed to get 10% of my income.
It depends on what you have as outside retirement and if you have any other income and what you hit. So you would possibly not have to pay that. Yeah. Sometimes that makes the difference. But again, like I said, I would much prefer to see us have a health care system that actually gives people health care, not an insurance card. That's what I really like, and I'd really like to work for that. Anybody else? You guys been quiet on this side?
I've heard from several people that said that larger businesses who supply a considerable amount of benefits for health care are somewhat supporting this because the tax that they would have to pay would be less than what they're paying in benefits. Have you heard anything from any of the larger businesses about that?
You know, I actually heard that thought, and it sort of makes sense. If I'm paying, $25 billion for health insurance care or that, but what they came out with said, most of the businesses said it's uncontrolled cost. $25 billion is the first year. I can control my insurance. In other words, if my insurance company goes up, I can either negotiate with them or switch to a different one, especially if we did portability. So they're like, at first blush, they were sort of going, well, maybe this isn't. But then when they started going in deeper and deeper and then seeing the cost, they said, there's no way we can keep this as a runaway train. And that's that. But I did hear that at the very, very beginning, but not so much now. Matter of fact, I do know 3 businesses have said we will not come to Colorado if this passes.
Who elects the board, and for how long is their term?
I don't know how long their terms are. Good question. I haven't asked that one. We elect them. The public elects them. Now, the first 3 years, when they first go into, they're actually appointed, and then they actually, no, it's not by the legislature. Yeah, it's by the legislator. Yeah. They get to appoint them, but they can't control them. And then they turn around, and what they do is they sit there and make their districts. So they will be able to pick and choose really who they want to have running that. Set their own salaries, their own districts, can't be recalled, and legislature will not be over them.
I'd just like to add, you talked about big business. The city of Cortez pays, what is it,
$2,237,363 in healthcare cost. With ColoradoCare, they're saying it'll cost $414,000, a savings to the city of Colorado of $1,823. Can you respond to that?
Well, what I can respond to is the facts. The facts are that
Do you have a proposal that, I mean, these are absolute figures.
they don't know the figures of the numbers because it actually hasn't occurred. But what we can do is look back at Colorado Health that has already failed and actually had people lose their insurance, and the $70 million that they actually lost. So that is what we have to look at as facts, because that actually happened. They're projecting. Just as I said, most times, well, as I say, you know, you can trust government projections if you like, and it's a good one, but most people are saying it's more. Then I would.
The issue is that this savings is coming out of somebody's pocket. I mean, it's not free, it's coming out of somebody's pocket.
I think it's coming out of my pocket too when I pay an additional $25 billion in tax.
10% tax.
No, I have not. But I know $25 billion at 10% will actually be.
I pay $720 a month for my health care. With ColoradoCare, that goes down to $300.
I don't believe those numbers, but I understand, and the Independent Institute does not believe those numbers. It's called a projection. It's a projection. It's a projection.
Is we're going from certain percentage tax a year to 10% more, so they're taking it out of our pockets. It's socialism. There's no free lunch.
I agree with you, sir.
Good idea.
What you say, somebody else pays.
No, I think I'm probably a pretty good way.
I think Obamacare actually showed that most people actually did pay more. They did not lose. And this is on the same, this is what we say is Obamacare on steroids, so it'd be very difficult. But I like to always say, you know what? My driver's license says I weigh 135 pounds. Just saying it don't make it so.
Any more questions?
I'm going to sneak around over here.
Other questions?
And that's a projected weight. Sorry. I got myself locked over there. Like I said, and that's a projected weight.
None out of other people's money.
I want to know how my husband, and I don't know how they do it, because they'll call me in and say, you need to get a new license and a new picture. My husband has the same picture since almost when we got married 27 years ago, almost by the end of this month. I'm like, you don't have brown hair. He's got pretty gray hair, but he don't have brown hair anymore.
Any other questions for Ms. Dougan?
I again want to say thank you. I am here. If you have questions you didn't want to do in public, that is wonderful. Again, I'd love to see you take the information. AFP, we have looked at the numbers. Taking 10% of a payroll tax out of people who are working or have worked and deserve their hard-earned dollars will not sustain economic freedom.